In the sprawling metropolis of Zilios, capital of the Zentari Federation, an unusual sight caught the attention of many. A human walked hurriedly through the bustling alien streets. John Avery, a seasoned diplomat from Earth, navigated through the diverse crowd with a purposeful stride, his mind weighed down by a heavy heart and an urgent summons. As he entered the towering structure that served as the hospital for the Federation's military elite, his presence caused a murmur of curiosity among the staff. Humans were rare in this part of the galaxy, and one as visibly distressed as John was even rarer. He was quickly ushered through the sterile, humming corridors to a private room where his old friend, General Thurrock, lay dying. Thurrock was a Valkorian, a race known for their warrior prowess and imposing presence. Once towering and fierce, the general now lay diminished on a bed that seemed too large for him. His exoskeleton, once a glistening blue-black, was now dull and fragile. Tubes and sensors were attached to his body, monitoring his failing vital signs. John approached the bedside, and Thurrock's eyes, a vibrant blue that contrasted starkly with his pale skin, flickered with a weak recognition. "John!" His voice was barely a whisper, a shadow of the commanding tones that had once echoed on battlefields. "Thurrock," John replied, taking the alien's tender-like hand in his own. Despite the differences in their biology, the gesture was universally understood. It was one of friendship and comfort. Thurrock's breathing was labored as he spoke. "You have come good. I do not have much time." His gaze shifted, looking past John as if seeing something beyond the room. "I am entrusting you with the most important task of my life, more crucial than any battle I have fought." John nodded, his expression solemn. He had anticipated some final military request, a strategy or a mission, something within his expertise as a diplomat. But the gravity in Thurrock's tone suggested something far beyond. "It is Lyra," Thurrock continued, the mention of his daughter bringing a rare softness to his features. "You know of her, though you have never met. My only offspring, and she is in danger." John's heart tightened. He knew little of Lyra, only that Thurrock had kept her existence relatively secret, a difficult task given his prominence. "What do you need from me?" John asked, his duty as a friend already deciding his course of action. "Promise me, John." Thurrock's grip tightened, his voice gaining strength from somewhere deep within. "Promise me you will take care of her. Protect her, guide her. She is all I have left." Without hesitation, driven by a deep sense of duty and the affection he held for his friend, John replied, "I promise, Thurrock. I will take care of Lyra as if she were my own." Relief washed over Thurrock's features. "Thank you, my friend. She is special, destined for great things. But she cannot ascend to her rightful place without guidance, without protection." John's mind raced as the weight of his promise sank in. He was no longer just a diplomat navigating the intricacies of interstellar politics. He was now a guardian to a future leader, a young girl who was unknown to him, yet held the future of a federation in her nascent hands. As Thurrock's breaths grew shallower, the room seemed to grow colder, the technological hums fading into a somber silence. "She is at the Luminara Academy, hidden in plain sight among her peers. Go to her, John. She will need you soon." John squeezed Thurrock's hand, a silent vow reinforcing his spoken promise. "I will protect her, my friend. Rest now, knowing she is in safe hands." With those final words, Thurrock closed his eyes, a sense of peace settling over his worn features. John stayed by his side until the end, a sentinel for both his friend in his last moments and his new charge, who was about to step into a turbulent world. As John left the hospital that evening, the stars overhead seemed to align in a new pattern, charting the course of his unexpected new journey. The galactic winds of fate had shifted, and John Avery, human diplomat, was now John Avery, guardian of the future Queen Regent of the Zentari Federation. John's journey to Luminara Academy was filled with a mixture of anticipation and anxiety. As the shuttle left the glittering lights of Zilios behind, weaving through starlit corridors of space, he pondered the task ahead. Lyra, the daughter of his late friend Thurrock, was a stranger to him, yet he carried the weight of a promise that linked their fates together. Luminara Academy was located on a secluded planet, its location undisclosed to most of the galaxy to protect the science of the elite that studied there. As the Academy came into view, a sprawling complex of modern architecture blended with verdant landscapes, John felt the magnitude of the Valkorian culture and its legacies. He was met at the landing pad by the headmistress, a stern yet courteous Nimbalian named Dr. Illyra. Her skin shimmered with a subtle iridescence, a common trait among her species. "Mr. Avery, we were saddened to hear of General Thurrock's passing. Lyra has been informed of your arrival," she said, leading him through the Academy's halls. Their walk ended at a lush courtyard where Lyra awaited. She stood by a fountain, seemingly absorbed in the dance of the water sprays. As John approached, he took in her appearance. She was taller than most human children her age, but slender as her species was known to be. Her skin had the soft blue hue of her father, and her eyes, a striking blue, watched him with an intelligent wariness. "You are my guardian now?" Her voice held a blend of curiosity and formality, her accent melodic with the lilt of her father's tones. "Yes, Lyra, I am here to look after you," John replied, extending his hand in a human gesture of greeting. She regarded his hand momentarily before taking it, her touch light. "I understand you were my father's friend," she said, looking up at him with an expression that seemed too mature for her age. "That's right," John nodded. "Your father was a very good friend, and he trusted me to take care of you." Lyra led him to a stone bench beside the fountain, her movements graceful and measured. "I know why I am hidden here, and why my father feared for my safety," she began, her voice steady. "The Federation is not stable. There are those who do not wish to see me ascend to my rightful place." John listened intently, impressed by her understanding of her precarious position within the political landscape. "Yes, and it's my job to ensure you are safe and prepared to one day lead, if you choose to." Lyra's gaze drifted to the water again. "I am my father's daughter," she stated plainly. "I will lead, but I must understand more of our allies and adversaries. You are human, from Earth. You can teach me." Her directness was disarming, and John felt a surge of protectiveness mixed with respect. "I'll teach you everything I know about humans, about Earth, and about navigating the challenges you'll face. We'll start with your studies here and expand to the politics of the Federation." Over the next several weeks, John immersed himself in Lyra's world. He attended classes with her, learning as much about Valkorian physiology and culture as she learned from him about human history and diplomacy. Their bond formed through shared knowledge and mutual respect, growing stronger with each challenge they faced together. One afternoon, as they studied the histories of the various races in the Federation, an alert sounded through the Academy. Dr. Illyra swiftly escorted them to a secure room. "There's been a breach," she explained, her voice tight with concern. "It seems someone has discovered Lyra's location." John's promise to Thurrock felt heavier than ever as he looked at Lyra, who sat calm but alert. "What do we do now?" she asked, her tone steady. "We ensure you're safe," John replied, his mind already racing through scenarios. "We might need to leave the Academy." Lyra nodded, her resolve clear. "Then let's prepare." "I trust you, John." As they planned their next steps, John realized that his role had evolved beyond that of a mere guardian. He was now a mentor, an ally, and a confidant to a future queen. His commitment to Lyra, forged by his promise to Thurrock, was now bound by a deep and mutual trust, a cornerstone that would underpin all their future endeavors. The news of the security breach at Luminara Academy had sent ripples through the corridors of power across the Zentari Federation. It was not just a sign of Lyra's vulnerability, but also a stark reminder of the stakes involved in her ascent to power. As John and Lyra prepared to leave the Academy under heightened security, the weight of the responsibility John had taken on became even more palpable. Under the cover of darkness, a small convoy of armored hovercraft glided silently away from Luminara. The night was still, The only sounds were the distant cries of nocturnal creatures and the soft hum of the engines. John sat next to Lyra, his mind alert to any signs of danger. "We're heading to a safe house on the outskirts of Varentia City," John explained, keeping his voice low even inside the secure vehicle. "It's a place not many know about, and it should give us the safety and privacy we need to plan our next steps." Lyra nodded, her expression composed. "What do we expect from our enemies, John? Assassination attempts? Abductions? Both are possible," John admitted. "But your father had many allies, and they've not forgotten their loyalty to him. We'll rally them to our cause." The journey was tense, with every shadow and every unexpected sound, causing John's hand to inch towards his weapon. But the night passed without incident, and they arrived at the safe house, a modest, unassuming structure hidden by thickets of dense foliage. The following days were a blur of activity. John contacted Thurrock's old allies, securing their support while also reaching out to his own contacts from Earth for additional resources. Meanwhile, Lyra continued her education, but now the subjects were more practical: security protocols, strategic thinking, and the art of diplomacy. One afternoon, as John was reviewing security footage, Lyra joined him, looking over his shoulder. "What are you looking for?" she asked. "Patterns, anomalies, anything that might tell us who is behind the breach," John replied, pointing at the screen where different feeds flickered. "See here, the way these shadows move? It's not natural. It's almost as if someone was cloaking their approach," Lyra finished, her eyes narrowing. "An advanced stealth tech, not widely available." John looked at her, impressed. "Exactly. This wasn't just a random act of violence. It's calculated, which means we're up against someone with resources and a motive." The revelation made their situation all the more dangerous. They were dealing with a sophisticated enemy, possibly one from within the very structures of the Federation. It made trust a rare and valuable commodity. Their discussions were interrupted by an urgent message from one of Thurrock's allies, a high-ranking military officer. "John, we've got trouble." The officer's voice crackled over the communicator. "Insurgent forces are gathering near the eastern border. They're armed and moving fast." John exchanged a look with Lyra. "We need to act," he said. "Can you muster a force?" "We can," the officer confirmed. "But we need a leader." Lyra stepped forward, her voice firm. "I will lead them." John hesitated, but seeing the determination in her eyes, he knew this was a pivotal moment. "All right," he agreed. "Prepare for battle. I'll be by your side." The ensuing days were a rush of preparations. Lyra trained with the best combat instructors John could find, mastering the use of both traditional Valkorian weapons and human firearms. They planned their tactics, organizing a defense that would utilize the terrain to their advantage and neutralize the insurgents before they could pose a significant threat. When the day of the battle arrived, John watched as Lyra donned her armor, a blend of Valkorian design and human technology, making her both a symbol and a target. They rode out at the head of a mixed force of human and alien soldiers, heading to confront the insurgents in what would be Lyra's first test as a leader. The battle, when it came, was fierce and chaotic. Lyra proved herself a capable and strategic leader, her orders clear and decisive. John fought by her side, protecting her while also allowing her the space to grow into her role. The insurgents were caught off guard by their tactics, their numbers dwindling under the disciplined assault of Lyra's forces. As the dust settled and the sun rose over the battlefield, the insurgents were either captured or had fled. Lyra stood amidst her troops, not just as a figurehead, but as a leader forged in the heat of battle. She had not only defended her right to rule, but had also earned the respect of those who had followed her into the fray. John looked on, pride and relief mingling in his chest. Lyra had ignited a spark of hope and determination that would soon spread across the Federation, a beacon to all who valued justice and stability. Together, they had taken the first step in a journey that would test them both, but for now, they had triumphed. In the aftermath of their victory against the insurgents, Lyra's reputation as a decisive leader began to solidify. News of her bravery and tactical acumen spread rapidly among the factions within the Zentari Federation. With each retelling, her legend grew, intertwining her fate with that of her father's legacy. Yet, with increased fame came increased danger, and both Lyra and John were acutely aware that their recent success would likely provoke further challenges. The next major threat emerged at Zerant, a critical hub located at the nexus of several major trade routes and a stronghold of dissident forces. The insurgents had regrouped and were now fortifying Zerant, preparing to use it as a base to launch operations against the established order. John and Lyra spent hours poring over holographic maps and intelligence reports, planning their strategy. Zerant is heavily fortified, John pointed out, tracing the city's extensive defenses with his finger. A frontal assault would be costly. Lyra nodded, her eyes scanning the data. We need a different approach. Something they won't expect. What about a series of feints? We could mislead them about where the main attack will come from. John agreed, and together they crafted a plan that involved multiple diversionary tactics designed to spread the enemy forces thin, before launching a swift and decisive strike at the heart of Zerant. As the operation drew near, Lyra addressed her assembled forces. Her voice, firm and inspiring, echoed across the ranks of soldiers who had come to believe in her vision for a stable and unified federation. Today, we fight not just for control of a city, but for the future of our people, she declared. The battle for Zerant began under the cover of darkness. Small units, led by John's most trusted lieutenants, executed hit-and-run attacks on the city's outer defenses, drawing the enemy's attention and resources away from their central stronghold. Meanwhile, Lyra led the main force, quietly maneuvering into position for the critical strike. The diversion was more successful than they had hoped. Confused and unable to coordinate a cohesive response, the insurgent leaders scrambled their forces in a futile attempt to address multiple threats. This disarray allowed Lyra and her main contingent to breach the city's defenses with relatively little resistance. Once inside, the fighting grew intense. Narrow streets and tight corners led to fierce, close-quarter battles. Lyra, in the thick of the action, fought with a calm precision that belied her relative youth. Her leadership in the heat of battle inspired her troops, who rallied to her cause with renewed vigor. John, ever vigilant, kept close to Lyra, ensuring her safety while also coordinating with field commanders to maintain the momentum of their surprise attack. His experience and strategic insight were invaluable in navigating the urban battlefield. As dawn broke over Zerant, the tide had turned decisively in their favor. The insurgents, caught off guard and leaderless, began to surrender or retreat. The city, a crucial stronghold, was now under their control. In the quiet aftermath of battle, as they walked through the liberated streets of Zerant, Lyra's thoughts turned to the future. This victory is important, but it is only a beginning, she told John. We have shown that we can fight and win, but now we must show that we can govern and unite. John nodded, his respect for Lyra deepening. You're right. Winning battles is one thing, building peace is another. But you're not alone in this. You have allies, and you have the will of the people. The fall of Zerant marked a pivotal moment in Lyra's quest to secure her rightful place as the leader of the Zentari Federation. It was not just a military victory, but a symbolic one that demonstrated her ability to lead and to unify disparate forces under a common cause. As they prepared to move on from Zerant, John knew that the challenges ahead would be daunting. But he also knew that in Lyra, the Federation might just have found a queen capable of leading them into a new era of peace and prosperity. With each step forward, they were reshaping the political landscape, building a future that would honor the legacy of her father and the hopes of a diverse galaxy. The victory at Zerant had a profound impact on Lyra's standing within the Zentari Federation. Her leadership during the siege had not only demonstrated her military prowess, but also her capacity to inspire loyalty and unity among diverse factions. In the aftermath, she and John focused on stabilizing the region which involved both fortifying their new stronghold and initiating diplomatic efforts to build alliances. John took the lead in these diplomatic efforts, using his extensive experience and contacts to bridge the cultural and political gaps that had long divided the Federation's member species. Meanwhile, Lyra concentrated on governance, learning to balance the needs and aspirations of her constituents with the practicalities of ruling a complex, multi-system federation. One evening, after a long day of negotiations and planning, Lyra and John sat on the balcony of their temporary headquarters in Zirant, looking out over the city that had become a symbol of their success. The city lights sparkled under the twin moons, a peaceful scene that belied the recent violence. Lyra turned to John, her expression thoughtful. "I've been thinking about what you said," she began, referring to their earlier conversations about governance, about building peace. "It's about more than just military strength or political savvy, isn't it?" John nodded, pleased with her insight. "Yes, it's about building relationships, trust. It's about making people feel heard and valued. That's what leads to lasting peace." Lyra smiled slightly, her gaze drifting back to the city. "I want to learn more about Earth, your culture. You've told me stories, but I think understanding more about where you come from could help me understand how to better integrate human perspectives into our Federation." John was touched by her interest and readiness to embrace other cultures. "I'd be happy to share more with you," he said. "Earth is very different from here, but there are lessons in our history that might be valuable." Over the next several weeks, they spent their evenings discussing various Earth cultures, political systems, and histories. Lyra was particularly fascinated by the concept of democracy, the balance of powers, and the role of the media in shaping public opinion. "These ideas," Lyra mused one night, "they could be adapted to suit our needs here, perhaps introducing more transparent governance structures, or even some form of representative council." John agreed, encouraging her to explore these ideas further. "Innovation in governance can be as powerful as any weapon in maintaining peace and loyalty," he advised. Meanwhile, during the day, they continued their efforts to stabilize Zirant. Lyra introduced new policies that aimed at economic revitalization and increased public safety, which gradually began to win over those who had been skeptical of her leadership. As Lyra implemented these changes, John watched her grow not only in confidence but in complexity. She was no longer just a military leader or a symbolic figurehead. She was becoming a thoughtful and innovative ruler, one who could potentially transform the Federation. One day, as they reviewed the progress reports from various city districts, Lyra looked up at John, her eyes shining with something akin to excitement. "John, once things are more settled here, I think it would be good to visit Earth, to see your home with my own eyes, to learn firsthand." John was surprised but pleased. "That sounds like a great idea," he responded warmly. "There's much to be gained from seeing other worlds, other ways of life. It broadens the mind and the heart." Their conversations and plans for the future deepened the bond between them, a bond that had begun as a duty and had grown into genuine friendship and mutual respect. As they worked side by side to rebuild Zirant and lay the foundations for a new era in the Zentari Federation, they were also building a bridge between two very different worlds, a testament to the power of understanding and collaboration. The day of Lyra's coronation arrived, marking not only her formal ascension to the throne, but also the culmination of her journey from a hidden heir to a unifying force across the Zentari Federation. The city of Zirant, once a stronghold of dissident forces, had been transformed into a beacon of hope and progress under her leadership, now chosen as the venue for this historic event. As the early morning sun bathed the city in a golden light, crowds gathered in the Grand Plaza, where a vast stage had been set up for the ceremony. Representatives from various planets and species across the Federation filled the seats, a colorful mosaic of the diverse life forms that comprise the galaxy. John watched from the sidelines as final preparations were made, feeling a mix of pride and nostalgia. He had seen Lyra grow from a wary, intelligent girl into a confident leader, ready to steer her people into a new era. Their journey together had forged a deep bond, one that went beyond duty to genuine affection and respect. Lyra emerged from the palace in a procession, her regal figure draped in the traditional robes of a Valkorian queen, intricately woven with symbols of her heritage and interspersed with human motifs. A nod to her guardian and mentor, John. Her presence was commanding, yet it carried a grace that endeared her to all who watched. As she ascended the steps to the stage, a hush fell over the crowd. The chief counselor of the Federation, an aged Ulithian known for his wisdom, stepped forward to officiate the ceremony. Today, we witness the rise of a new leader, one who has proven her mettle in the crucible of adversity, he began, his voice amplifying across the plaza. Lyra, daughter of Thurrock, has shown us the power of unity and vision. Today, she takes her rightful place as Queen Regent of the Zentari Federation. The ceremony proceeded with ancient rituals, each step imbued with deep cultural significance. Lyra accepted the scepter and the crown, symbols of her authority and responsibility. As the crown was placed upon her head, cheers erupted from the crowd, a resounding affirmation of her right to rule. John felt a surge of emotion as he watched Lyra take the oath of office. Her eyes met his for a moment, shining with gratitude and determination. When the formalities concluded, she stepped forward to address her people. My journey to this day has been filled with challenges and lessons, Lyra began, her voice clear and strong. I have fought alongside brave souls, learned from wise mentors, and been guided by the unwavering loyalty of friends. Today, as I stand before you, I am reminded that my rule is not defined by the power I wield, but by the peace I seek to create. She spoke of her plans for the Federation, strengthening alliances, fostering economic development, and promoting cultural exchange, including her intent to visit Earth, to learn from humanity's history and achievements. As we look to the stars, Lyra concluded, let us remember that our strength lies in our diversity, our resilience in our unity. Together, we will build a future worthy of the generations to come. The skies above Ziranth lit up with fireworks, celebrating the dawn of a new era. As the festivities continued, John and Lyra had a quiet moment together. You've done well, Lyra. Your father would have been proud, John said, his voice thick with emotion. Thank you, John. None of this would have been possible without you. You will always be a part of this journey, Lyra replied, her hand resting on his arm. As the day turned to evening, and the celebrations carried on, John knew that his role as guardian was nearing its end, but his relationship with Lyra and the Zentari Federation would continue. He had helped shape a leader who was not only capable and strong, but also wise and compassionate. The story of Lyra, the human race queen, would be told across the galaxies, a tale of unity, courage, and the indomitable spirit of diverse beings coming together for a common good. In her reign, the Federation would see new alliances, new growth, and an enduring peace, her legacy a beacon for all who believe in the possibility of a better future.